Hi everyone, and welcome to the Knit Shift, episode 7. My name is Laura, and today is Saturday, May 9th, 2015. If you are new, welcome. This is a knitting podcast where I talk about my projects, yarn, my dog, who is currently sitting on my lap asleep, so I'm sure she will poke her head up at some point. If you're returning, welcome back, and thank you for sticking around and hanging out with me for a little bit today. Like I said, it's Saturday, May 9th, and it's in the morning, which it's actually kind of early for me, to be honest. I work evenings, hence the name, The Knit Shift, and I'm usually not showered and ready to go before 10 a.m., to be honest. Anyway, show notes for this blog can be found at theknitshift.com. You can watch this on iTunes or YouTube or on the blog. I'm on Ravelry as Yarnstormer. I'm on Instagram as Laura Mahalski, and we have a Ravelry group. Just do a search for The Knit Shift. It's pretty quiet right now, but when we get to 100 members, I will be picking a name out of the hat, or a number out of the hat, I guess, and sending that person a skein of Vesper sock yarn, which I should have brought out with me, but is still in my office, so sorry for that. But we're at about 85 members right now, and which hopefully means in the next week or two I'll be able to draw a name and send you some yarn. So, I think that's it for housekeeping stuff. I'm sorry for my dull background today. Normally I sit on my couch, but we're in the middle of rearranging some furniture, so I'm sitting on the floor of my living room, which has the best light, and it just makes for a little bit of a dull background. So, yeah, so it's been 2 weeks since I last recorded. You might have noticed my hair is shorter. I got it cut right after I filmed 2 weeks ago, and so it's had 2 weeks to grow. I guess that's the thing about short hair, is you notice the growth so much quicker. But I went like here in January, and then that was kind of a test run to go really short. I love my hairstylist so much. She's really great, and I'm really happy with my short hair. It was great for running around DC last weekend. It ended up being kind of warm, so I'm really enjoying the short hair. And even though it means I'll have to get it cut more than twice a year, which was my usual MO before, I'm really happy with it, and I'm enjoying it much more than I thought I would, I guess you could say. So it's been a busy week. I was at Maryland Sheep and Wool last weekend. I can't believe it's been a week already. Gosh, I can't believe a week ago I was wandering around. I mean, I tend to go there early and get my shopping done early so that I can sit and knit on the hillside outside of the main barn. So here it is, 10 a.m., and I would probably almost be done shopping in the next hour. That's about where I was exactly 1 week ago. When I got home, I only had to work 3 days this week, which was pretty fantastic. But I got a bug in my ear, or whatever you want to call it, to declutter, which is kind of silly when you consider I just went shopping at Maryland Sheep and Wool and I'm bringing home a lot of purchases. But I just had been thinking about this article I read in Twist Collective recently by Rachel Herron, who writes fiction books, but she wrote an article for Twist Collective about decluttering and simplifying your life. And between that and the whole, there's this organizational guru who's kind of become more popular in recent months. She wrote a book. Her name is Marie Kondo, and she's Japanese, and her method is called the KonMari method, and it's basically, I haven't even read the book. I just know this from others. I've just heard this from others talking about it. You take everything out of your closet, and you have to touch each item and look at it and ask yourself, does this bring me joy? Does this spark joy? And if not, you're supposed to get rid of it. And it's led to a lot of people really simplifying their possessions. So it's pretty cool. So my boyfriend and I just kind of had a fire under our feet, and we got rid of so much stuff this week, which was fantastic. I love spring cleaning, and it just feels good to get rid of a bunch of stuff. But there was a downside to it, which I will get to in a few minutes. But I will link to both Rachel's article and the book in a few minutes, or on the blog. Sorry, I think I need more caffeine. But first, I need a sip of water. everyone always has tea on podcasts, and I do drink tea a few times a week in the mornings. But mostly when I podcast, I just want a big glass of water. So, cheers. It's my Dickie's barbecue cup. Okay. So, yeah, it's been a fantastic week. I will talk about Maryland sheep and wool toward the end when I talk about my stash enhancement, because it was a really fantastic weekend. I had a wonderful time just hanging out with friends and knitting. As much as I enjoy sheep and wool, I almost enjoy just sitting and knitting with friends more. Just to get to see people I don't get to see that often is really my favorite thing. But, the stash enhancement doesn't hurt either. So that brings me to, we'll go through my regular segments first with knitting, and then we'll go to Maryland sheep and wool. So, and by the way, if you want to see, I did a little podcasting in Maryland with Kate of the Stitch Addiction podcast and Amanda of Not a Podcast. And Amanda, we each recorded it on our phones. We had them set up, and Amanda's was the best take. So Amanda has added it as part of her most recent episode. So if you look up Not a Podcast, KNOT, you will see the three of us podcasting together. We talked about our favorite purchases from Maryland sheep and wool and purchases elsewhere in the weekend, because we did visit 2 other yarn stores. So yes, let's get into it. So I have one finished object. I finished my Manos de Alegria socks. They're just basic stockinette socks. I start at the toe with Judy's Magic Cast On. I cast on 32 socks. I go up the leg. I do a fish lips kiss heel, and then stockinette up the leg, and then I finish with 2x2 ribbing for 2 inches or so. I was a bad podcaster and didn't keep track of where I was 2 weeks ago, but I was probably right around the heels. So I knit both legs and the cuff mostly while I was away at Maryland sheep and wool. These are really soft. It's a really lovely stitch definition. I really cannot recommend this sock yarn enough. It's a wool nylon blend. I want to say it's like 470 yards or so, but the colorway is Colibri, and it's purples and navy blues and sky blues and sort of this lovely pinky purple here. So I really like these quite a bit. So that is my first finished object. You know what? I'm going to have to get the dog out of my lap because my foot is asleep. Gracie, come on. You got to scoot out of my lap. Come on. Oh, she's Gracie, you can't. She has her little smush face going on. Gracie, you cannot stay here. I'm sorry. My foot's asleep. I'll see if I can get her to move. Come on. Scoot. Sorry, amateur hour over here. Oh, she's like, no, I'll just rotate and face the other direction. Oh, Grace. Gracie will be 10 this summer, actually. She's very sweet. She's very protective of me. She's a Cocker Spaniel. I can't remember if I said that, but she's very, very sweet. And if you're a dog person, she will love you. Or if you make a fuss over her, she will love you. You don't have to be a dog person to make a fuss over her, but she's a sweetheart. We took her down to, yesterday my boyfriend and I went to lunch in North Carolina in the Outer Banks, and she came along for the ride, and she had the whole back seat to herself, but she opted to sit on my lap, and at one point she was on my lap in the passenger seat and had her paws across the two of us, or the paws across the middle of between the driver and the passenger seat, and her paws were resting on my boyfriend's lap because she's spoiled and likes her pack to be together. The three of us are a pack. So okay. So on to my other finished knit story, which I don't have a picture of. I showed this last week, 2 weeks ago. I think I had not yet knit the button bands. It was a baby sweater for an acquaintance of mine who's having a little boy. Well, the thing about decluttering is you might throw away something you didn't mean to throw away. It's my fault. It's no one's fault but my own. It was just in a pile of stuff and it got thrown out. I'm certain of it. I can't find it anywhere. I'm disappointed. but it wasn't my most favorite knit in the world, if I can be honest. I wasn't totally enamored of it, so maybe in some weird, subtle, bizarre way, I'm okay with this. I mean, I'm really disappointed because I knit an entire sweater except for attaching the buttons, so that makes me sad, but it is life, and I must get over it. And honestly, I don't think I'm going to knit another item for this baby. I feel kind of guilty admitting that, but I have to be honest with myself and realize that I'm not going to get something done in time for this little baby, and I don't like giving myself insane deadlines. I'm not comfortable with that. It doesn't make knitting enjoyable for me. I don't know how some people thrive off of a deadline, and my whole professional life is around deadlines, but I just don't care for knitting under that kind of pressure. Like when I do Christmas knitting, I get it done by October. I'm an obnoxious early finisher because I don't like the mad rush to finish right on deadline. I'm not knitting until 2 a.m. on Christmas morning to finish a gift. That's not my style. So I'm basically an old woman. Like, I'm training to be an old woman where I get everywhere early. I don't like being late. It makes me stressed out. I just would much rather be super early to something. In fact, I've been so early to an appointment once that they forgot I was here. I was there. I was going to get my eyebrows waxed, and I got there like a half hour early and was in their little waiting room in the back. And this is the place I get my hair cut, and I've been going there for years, so I will chalk it up to a fluke that this happened. But I was sitting in their little room in the back. I think they call it their Zen room. You know, they're playing flute, harp, kind of relaxation music. And I'm sitting back there knitting, and, you know, I didn't expect to be seen early. I got there early, so I'm content to sit there for a while and knit. And then my appointment time comes, and 5 more minutes go by, and I'm like, okay, what's going on? This is kind of annoying. And I could have walked out to the counter. I know I could have. But I thought, well, they'll be here when they get here. And then by about 10 minutes beyond my appointment time, I see my phone ring. And it says the name of the business. And I answer it, and the woman who had checked me in a half hour earlier says, or 40 minutes earlier says, you know, hi, we're just wondering if you're going to make it to your 1 o'clock eyebrow wax appointment. And I let her go on for a little bit, and then I said, it takes a lot for me to lose my cool in a customer service situation because I've worked retail and I know what it's like to be yelled at. But I let her talk, and I said, actually, I'm in your waiting room right now. I checked in about 40 minutes ago. And you could have heard a pin drop, and they were super apologetic and super nice about it. So I've been so early that I have actually been forgotten about for my appointment. So anyway, digressions aside, let's go on to works in progress. I have 2 new works in progress to show you. I know, Gracie, my lap is not comfortable. This dog. I knew that sitting on the floor would lead to this, but I didn't know it would be quite like this. She's trying to find a comfortable spot on my lap. Life is tough for a dog named Gracie. My sleeves are uneven. Stream of consciousness today. So, works in progress. I have 2. I have a pair of socks, and I have a shawl that I started. Before I left for Maryland Sheep and Wool, let me adjust the camera. Before I left for Maryland Sheep and Wool, I wanted to cast on a project that was yarn that I bought at last year's Maryland Sheep and Wool. I just thought that would be a nice way to, I don't want to say pay tribute, that sounds way hokier than I mean it to. I just wanted to mark the weekend with a previous Maryland Sheep and Wool purchase. So I'm using Gail's Art Yarn. I think it's Wonder Sock is her base. It's a wool nylon blend, and the colorway is Graffiti and Asphalt. And you can see, this is probably the best view of it. There are about a bajillion colors in this yarn cake. It's gorgeous. She does a fantastic speckled yarn. Not even speckled, just many multicolored yarn, colors of yarn. So I'm knitting these 2 at a time. I'll do 1 sock at a time. It's just like in 1 strand of yarn. Let's see if I can do this justice. Look at all those colors. It's amazing. I have no idea how to dye yarn, but I can't help but think that the process of something like this would take hours. And the colorway is Graffiti and Asphalt, if I hadn't said that already. And I'm knitting these on my beloved Chaigao needles. And I believe these are 1.5s. I'm sorry, I'm a little disorganized. Yeah, 1.5. That's what these felt like. I tried to do my best to make good notes for this. And I just have so much to talk about. I didn't take as detailed of a note as I would like. So these are 2 at a time, toe up, Judy's Magic Cast On. I started with 32 stitches, increased, and now I'm on, I believe, 68 stitches for the foot. I'm kind of disappointed that there's almost a little spiraling going on. Like if you see this white, it's a little bit of a spiraling effect, but I can live with it. I'm not someone who minds pooling, but I really had hoped, because these are so variegated and so many colors, that I could avoid such tight pooling or striping or whatever you want to call spiraling, what you might call it. And I took the advice of Amanda over at Not a Podcast. She makes really nice rounded toes on her socks, so I tried to follow her advice, and I did increases every round for about 5 rounds, and then I lessened off to every other round here. So it kind of makes a more round edge and then more gradual. And I think this will work well. I'll be eager to wear these and see how they go. So I cast these on before Maryland Sheep and Wool, but then after I finished the socks I just showed you, I knit on these exclusively, pretty much. So I have a ways to go on these. My next project is a shawl. I brought this to Maryland Sheep and Wool again, but I barely knit on it because I just was more in a sock frame of mind. This is a shawl I am knitting for the Stitch Addiction podcast's shawl knit along. Kate is doing a knit along of any shawl you want to make. It started May 1st. I believe it runs for 2 months or 3 months. Don't quote me on that. But there's no pattern. It's just like a shawl knit along. So I cast on. I had been thinking about many shawls, and I kept coming back to these 2 colors together. This is Copper Corgi Fiber Studios in the colorway is Peacock, and it is the Savannah sock base. This is a 100% superwash merino, and this is Fleece Artist BFL, no colorway, in a wool nylon, a BFL nylon blend. And I am knitting the Serena Shadow Shawl. Detangle this as I show it off. Oops. I left off in the middle of a row. Bad knitter. So it's a very simple, this is a free pattern by Antonia Shankland. Again, it's the Serena Shadow Shawl. It calls for DK weight on size 4. I opted for fingering weight on a bigger needle to account for the thinner yarn. And I'm really enjoying the fabric. I think I'm using a 6. A US 6, perhaps? I believe so. But it's basically just stockinette and garter alternating. So you can see I'm doing, the melon is the stockinette and the Copper Corgi, the peacock, is the garter. Super simple. You increase on the right side row at this edge, twice in the middle on each side of the center stitch, and then again at the other end of the row. So it's super simple. I'm loving it. I knit quite a bit on it last night. I didn't have a lot of time to knit this week, but I probably doubled this in size last night, so I'm really enjoying these colors. I think it'll make a really nice shawl, and I want to block it really, really aggressively to really kind of open up the stitches quite a bit. Let me put this over here. You guys could see the chair beside me where I have put all of my things to show you. Oh my goodness. It's a mess. It's full of stuff, which is exciting. So this brings us, that's the end of my whips. This brings us to a new segment called Spinning, because I am a spinner. I'm really excited about this. Kate, I mean, I feel like I'm going to call myself a spinner, even though I am not great at it. Kate and Amanda showed me the ropes last week of spindle spinning, and I'm really enjoying it. I didn't even practice this week. I'm a bad beginning spinner because I know that consistent practice is the key, but I'm determined to keep it going this week. So I showed this spindle off last week. This is a Aaron Makes Stuff spindle, and I have his card here. I was at least organized enough to bring that. And it's a colored pencils spindle, and it's a walnut spindle. And I am using, I don't know the type of fiber. Kate gave it to me. Kate very generously brought me a huge bag of fiber for practice spinning. It's from the Yarn Barn in Kansas, her local yarn store. It's a lovely sage green. It's a wool of some type, but it's got a very nice staple. Look at me, learning my words. It's nice and long and easy for a new spinner like myself. So I think, oh, and yes, Kate gave me several plastic bobbins, which was very generous of her, so that when I am done spinning, I can put it on a bobbin and then ply it. I haven't even looked into plying it. I mean, I bought the spindle and didn't have time to even like start YouTubing videos on how to spindle spin. I went and Kate showed me the ropes, and she's amazing. She is a very patient teacher. I think she is like, she has an innate skill with fiber. She started with spindle spinning less than a year ago, and spindle spun sock yarn within months, and got herself a wheel and is making this spinning this beautiful yarn. I'm super impressed. I've not even thought about the idea of potentially buying a wheel. That is a rabbit hole I am not ready to even think about. So a lot of this was very inconsistent at first, the underlayers, but you can see it's a bit more consistent as I've gone on. So I'm going to practice a bit today. My plans for today is my day off, and I plan to, boy, I hope the microphone doesn't pick up the dog snoring on my lap. I plan to knit and spin and catch up on podcasts today, and I'm making Greek lemon chicken orzo soup for dinner tonight, which will be really nice. So it'll be a good day of all of my favorite things. So that's it for spindle spinning. I'm gonna keep spinning this up, and I think I'll ply it up. I mean, it's gonna be a really thick yarn, but I think Kate and Amanda both said don't think about the yarn, just think about the mechanics of it, don't think about what you're making. So I've got a lot of yarn, of fiber to spin up here, and you will see in my sheep and wool purchases I bought perhaps as much fiber as yarn, if not more. So so that brings me to my stash enhancement segment, but first I'm going to try and kick the dog off my lap again because now my other foot is asleep. Gracie, I've gotta, oh, I'm sorry, I'll give you some belly scritches, and then I've got to make you move. Her head is on my chest. She is the most spoiled dog in the world. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Grace. I'm sorry to make you move. Woe is Gracie. It was a very exhausting day of riding in the car yesterday. This dog, can you see this ridiculous face of hers? Come on. Scoot, scoot. Okay, so this brings me to my segment called Yarms, which is my word for yarn. When I'm just joking around and being goofy. I'm going to pull the camera closer to me in the hopes that that keeps the dog off my lap. I'm not optimistic about that. So this will be yarns / a recap of Maryland Sheep and Wool because it feels like I just kind of need to do it all in chronological order. So I had a business trip to Richmond on Wednesday, and instead of driving home Wednesday night, I live in Southeast Virginia, so I drove north to Richmond and drove on after my work trip to Fredericksburg Wednesday night, and I had a hotel room there. And that way I had Thursday, I was able to get up to DC closer to Thursday morning instead of like Thursday afternoon, evening, drive up at midnight after work, that kind of thing. So, or even heck, drive up Friday. So I was thrilled that I could start my trip a day early. So Thursday, I bummed around Fredericksburg for a little bit. I went to a Wegmans and We don't have Wegmans in my part of Southeast Virginia, and I had access to one when I was in college in Pennsylvania, and I loved it. But I just kind of wandered around and looked at everything, and just looked at the cheese. I don't know. I'm a grocery store browser, I guess. I knit at Starbucks for a little bit, just kind of hopped and skipped my way up I-95, and I went to Reagan Airport, and I picked up Kate from the Stitch Addiction. I was able to meet her flight, and I knew that it would be a lot busier than my little airport here in Norfolk, Virginia, but it was nuts. I saw online that they had a cell phone waiting lot, and I thought, great, I'll just go sit there and knit for a few minutes, and even if it's a half hour, I can just sit and knit for free, and it'll be great. But I did not realize that this parking lot had only about 20 spaces, and it was like the Hunger Games in there. Like, people were double parking, people were hovering near the back. It was just a one-way drive with angled parking on each side. So people were hovering toward the back so that they could jump on a space the minute it opened up. It was stressful as heck. So I got a space, and Kate texted to say she was on the ground pretty soon after. So I met her and drove. We were house sitting for a friend for the weekend and taking care of the friend's dog and cat, who were very sweet. And we were driving back to Alexandria, where our friend lives, and I thought, this looks really familiar. Let's see how far we are from Fiberspace, which is a fantastic yarn shop in Old Town. And sure enough, we were like a half mile away. So Kate and I were like, we're on vacation. Let's just go to the yarn store. I mean, we were already going to go Friday morning, and that plan did not change. But we thought, let's just go and do a little recon and just kind of see, get the lay of the land, see what they have going on. So we stopped, and I made my first purchase of the weekend, which was some fiber. You fiber? Oh, here you are, right on top. So I bought some Hedgehog Fibers Sparkly Merino, and this will have to wait quite a bit to be spun because Kate, and it's merino silk, 75% merino, 20% silk, 5% sparkle. Silk is very slippery, they tell me, so this might wait like a while to be spun up. But I loved the back of it. I loved this purple and the blue and this awesome rusty orange and the sparkle. It just looked like a nebula or a galaxy or something outer space, like, apart from the orange. I just loved the purple and the blue. So I just thought this was really, really pretty. Now I have fiber on my face. So that was my purchase on the first day. Hazel Knits had a trunk show going on at Fiberspace, and that, I don't recall where it's based, but the only time I had seen it in person before was at a yarn store in Portland, Oregon, when I was on vacation 6 years ago. So it had been a while, and I knew I wanted to buy some. Well, it turns out they had all of these enormous wheels of yarn. Like, they were caked up, and I thought I had one that I really liked, but I didn't buy it Thursday. But I bought some the next day. So Thursday night, we hung out with our friends who live at the house where we stayed. We took them to dinner, and I had my first ever lobster roll, and I give it 2 thumbs up. It was fantastic. We went to Hank's Oyster Bar in Old Town, which was delicious, and we had eaten there last year. I think it's becoming a tradition of ours. So Friday morning, we drove our friends and their baby to the airport. The baby is 6 months old, and he is precious. He's 6 months old, almost 7 months old now. So he's just darling. He's the happiest little boy. He's a giant little baby. He's growing up to be big and tall and strong. So he's precious. I can't get enough of him. So we drove them to the airport in their car, and on the way home, it was like 9:30, and even though Kate and I were in our pajamas, basically, we said, let's see if Amanda is ready and we can go get her. Like, she stayed at a hotel about a mile from where we were house sitting, and she was game, so we picked her up, and I got to meet her in my pajamas with crazy bedhead, and I have to say this hair does do some epic bedhead now that it's really short. So she came back to the house and we hung out for a bit and we went over to Fiberspace. We didn't realize though that Fiberspace opened at 11 and we got there around 10 or 10:15. So we went wandering in search of caffeine in the neighborhood. And we found this coffee shop called Misha's. And I am not a big coffee drinker, but I got my dad's birthday is tomorrow, May 10th. So I got my dad a pound of coffee for his birthday. They roast their own coffee there at Misha's. And I love the smell of coffee. So this is their Route 66 blend. I think it says French coffee. Oh man, it smells really good. So happy birthday, Dad. So I'll have that. I'm seeing my parents in a couple weeks, so I'll bring it for him then. So we hung out there and knit for a bit, and then we went back over to Fiberspace because it had opened by then. So it's a really fantastic store. They've got a lot of dyers you can't find anywhere else or very few places, like Hedgehog Fibers and Miss Babs and Plucky Knitter and Neighborhood Fiber Company, which is a local dyer to them. So we had a good time wandering around the store, and it's a huge store. It's really laid out wonderfully, and they've got a cool lounging area in the front. So I knew I wanted some hazel knits, and I went into it thinking I wanted some green. They had 800 yard cakes of their artisan sock, which is a 90-10 wool nylon base, merino nylon superwash. I thought I wanted green because Wednesday, I'm gonna rearrange myself. Sitting on the floor is hard, you guys. When I was in Richmond for my work trip, I was about to go into a meeting and I had pulled up my email on my phone, and my mom had emailed me to tell me that my cousin and his wife were expecting. They have the baby Davy is about 18 months old. And he is going to have a sibling, except it's two. They're expecting twins. So I had gone into it thinking I would buy a cake of hazel knits for sweaters for the babies. They live in Florida, but they'll be born in November. So I thought a newborn-sized sweater, like a cardigan, would work, for a few months. So, but I loved the green that the hazelnuts had, but this other color kept calling to me. And I remembered that I have 2 skeins of green Malabrigo sock yarn in my stash, which will be perfect for the baby sweaters. So I bought this cake of hazelnuts artisan sock in the colorway Nymph, and it's hard to get the full picture of the color, but it's a gray purple, and it's a bit, here's a better angle, it almost looks like a gradient, because that's a little better. The inside is more light and then it gets a little dark, and I know that's not an intentional gradient, but just the way it caked up, it worked out that way, and it's really pretty. I think this is going to be a shawl. It's a color that I wouldn't normally buy, but gosh, I think it is pretty. So that was my only purchase at Fiberspace. And Friday afternoon, we met up with our friend Emily and wandered around Old Town for a bit. And we ate lunch at Austin Grill, which was the first of several Mexican meals we had that weekend. And it was delicious. And then we went to Mount Vernon, George Washington's home, which is about 20 minutes outside of Old Town, right along the Potomac. And it was really lovely. We went on a tour of the house. There are sheep everywhere, and there's a rare breed of sheep there called a Hog Island sheep. I don't know I'm sure we saw some, but I don't know what they look like compared to other sheep. So it was a nice day. It was a little warm, but we went through the tour, and I love going on house tours. I've been to Monticello, and at Monticello you stay with the same group the entire time, and one tour guide takes you through the entire house. But at Mount Vernon, you move through the house, and a guide is stationed in each room to tell you about it. So we got to go upstairs. At Monticello, I don't think we were able to go upstairs, which was nice. So we got to see the bedrooms, and I kind of like, this is kind of cheesy, but I like this thing that the guide said. As you walk up the stairs, you know, you hold onto the railing, and the railing is still original to the house. So, and it's the only thing in the house that visitors are allowed to touch, basically. So you can think about, you know, you're holding the railing and going up the stairs where George Washington and other presidents who visited him stay, you know, like, it's just kind of cool to think about that. They also had in one of the main hallways the key to the Bastille prison in Paris, which was pretty fantastic. So that has, I think, left the house only once or twice. So that was a nice visit, and, you know, you can go out on the grass and overlook the Potomac. You know, it's high up on a bluff. And I bought myself one thing at the gift shop. I really like magnets and ornaments from places I visit. So I bought myself a little Mount Vernon Christmas ornament. So Friday night we went to a seafood place for dinner, where we went with Emily and her boyfriend Josh, and Kate and Amanda and I, and it was a very low-key restaurant. I don't want to use the word dive, but it was kind of divey, you know, just a good old school kind of seafood place. And Kate and Emily and Josh got blue crabs, and I love the smell of Old Bay, but I'm too lazy to pick my own crabs. It's a lot of work, and I should have gotten seafood. I was kind of disappointed. I just was kind of feeling chicken that night, so I got some chicken, but it wasn't as good as I had wanted it to be, alas. And that night I took my first Uber ride, which was kind of fun. Like, I've had the app on my phone forever, but I just never use it in Norfolk because I drive everywhere. So that's neither here nor there, but that was kind of fun because our driver was a very chatty gentleman, and his day job is being a U.S. Marshal. So if you are ever a bad guy and you are arrested by a U.S. Marshal and he tells you corny jokes like, "So what time do you go to the dentist?" and you say "tooth hurty," it's probably our Uber driver. So he was pretty fun. So we went to bed and got up really early Saturday to go to Maryland Sheep and Wool. We wanted to be, well, I should say, Kate and Amanda wanted to be in line at Jenny the Potter to get some mugs. I was kind of ambivalent about the mugs, but I was very happy to go along and stand in line with them, and I ended up buying some things, but I did not get any mugs. So we got to the fairgrounds at 8 o'clock. We were in line by 8:15 at Jenny the Potter, and we were still about a dozen people back. But it was great, you know, the line got longer and longer. It wasn't too hot out yet. We made friends with the lady in line behind us. Her name was Lori, and just stood and knit and had a good time. And I had never been to a booth with that kind of madness right when the sales began at 9 o'clock. So I did not buy any mugs, but I got to meet Jill Draper of Jill Draper Makes Stuff Yarn there. I did not buy any yarn. I have a 6-month subscription to her Esopus Sock Club, and I just got my May offering in the mail, which I will not be showing you this week. I'll show you next week. But I did buy 3 things at Jenny the Potter. I bought the earrings I am wearing. They're just little knit stitch. Yoo-hoo. Yes, little knit stitch pottery. I bought a similar pair for my mom. Little oval shaped. And I bought myself another Christmas ornament. And it's got her little JTP for Jenny the Potter. So I'm quite happy with those purchases. And these are, the earrings are a Mother's Day present for my mom. So I am going to do a quick save on this video and resume in a minute because my disk is full and I think I need to delete some things because this episode is not over yet. So give me 1 second, I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. So I think I have enough room to get this episode done, and I need to majorly do some work on this hard drive if I want to keep recording episodes every week. So after Jenny the Potter, I wandered around the main hall with Kate and Amanda, and sometimes we split up, and sometimes two of us went off, and I ended up at Wild Hair Fiber Studios. I have bought their sock yarn before and made socks from it, but this one bit of fiber really caught my eye. And as soon as you see it, you will see why. Rainbow Gradient. I love it so much. I'm sorry that everything is in a bag. I just, I want to keep it sealed up for now. So, this is Falklands in the colorway Grateful Dyed. 4 ounces. Kate and Amanda both told me that Falklands is good for a beginning spinner, so I'm not going to tackle something like a gradient just yet, but I just had to buy something fun like this, because it's just very me. So I bought that. I stopped it into the world. I looked at their sock yarn, but I remembered that I still have a skein from Maryland Sheep and Wool last year that I have not knit yet. So I moved over to the fiber and bought some BFL in the colorway Sojourn. It's 4 to 4.3 ounces. And it is this lovely, I'm sorry about the glare, it's blue and green, various shades of blue and green from kind of a lime avocado, like not even lime, avocado green, but there's some bright green. It's just really cool. I really enjoy this. So I bought that. What else? Let me move this stuff around here. Yes, okay. All that is left is yarn. So I had to stop by Blue Moon Fiber Arts, which is represented by The Fold, which is a yarn store in Illinois. Socks That Rock has always been one of my favorite yarn dyers, or yarns to knit socks from, and shawls. And I couldn't resist the siren call of seeing so many skeins in person. So I bought myself a skein of yarn. I've never bought a repeat skein of yarn before, the same colorway that I have knit from before, but this is a special yarn to me. Again with a rainbow. This is Fire on the Mountain, Socks That Rock lightweight, and it's 405 yards. I knit my very first pair of socks for myself out of this yarn, so I really wanted another pair. I knit them at too tight of a gauge, which they fit me okay, but they are like iron. There's very little stretch to them, and I would really like to knit myself another pair of socks out of Fire on the Mountain now that I've knit, you know, more than 100 skeins of, or 100 pairs of socks. I'd like to try my hand at the same sock yarn. So I bought that there, and I also paid a visit to Marigold Jen / Hobbledehoy. Marigold Jen is an Etsy shop that has beautiful sock yarn, and I love her base. Her BFL base is really wonderful. I've bought it at several previous Maryland Sheep and Wools. Hi, Grace. No, you can't come on my lap. I have yarn. You're going to come anyway. I know. You're going to show up anyway because that's what you do. That's what you do. So this is Marigold Jen. Her BFL nylon base, and the colorway is Forbidden. Ooh la la. But it's like a blackish gray, and there are blips of lime green and navy blue, and I just think this would make a really nice pair of socks for my brother or my dad or me, but it's just a good kind of not just solid yarn for a gentleman. So I really like that. And I believe that was it for my Maryland Sheep and Wool purchases. There was good food to be had. Getting there at 8 a.m. meant I was hungry at like 10:30 or 11. So I had a pit lamb sandwich around 10:45 in the morning. And anytime you can have 2 lunches in a day is okay by me. But this pit lamb sandwich was really disappointing. It was kind of flavorless. It wasn't seasoned well. It just wasn't very good. So I enjoyed eating a second lunch before we left. I had a corn dog, which is probably my favorite festival food. I don't think I had anything else to eat. I had a few. There's a nut roaster where they kind of candy pecans and almonds and that kind of thing, and I had tried a few of their pecans when someone else got them. But after we got done shopping, I basically sat on the hill for a couple hours and hung out with friends and met new friends and just enjoyed the company of people I don't get to see more than once a year. Or twice a year if I'm lucky. So it was really warm, the sun was out, and the forecast was like a high of 72, but it had to be pushing 80 degrees. So thank goodness we had all brought sunscreen, but it was just really hot, and by 1 o'clock or 1:30, Kate and Amanda and I were kind of done. So we weren't done with yarn shopping. Oh no. No siree Bob. We went to a local yarn store in Frederick, Maryland that was having a trunk show. It was called the Knot House, and if you ever get the chance to go, I highly recommend it. I have a soft spot for yarn stores that are located in houses, or, converted houses. I just think when I'm daydreaming about a life with no financial concerns or bills to pay, or, this is my life of leisure when I'm a rich old woman, because that's going to happen in journalism. In my dream scenario, I own a yarn store in a converted old house, like a Victorian mansion, and I just think that would be like the best in the world, and I could sit and knit and help customers, and it would just be a dream. So I visited a few stores like that in my life, one of them being a yarn store whose name escapes me in Berlin, Maryland, which is when you drive up the Eastern Shore. It's in far eastern Maryland near Ocean City. And the other is the Knot House in Frederick, Maryland. So I highly recommend it. There were about 8 or 10 indie dyers there, or indie dyers represented there. Although the woman behind Yarn on the House, aka Yoth, was there, and Amanda ended up buying a sweater's quantity of yarn from her for the body of a sweater for which she has a yoke planned, I believe. So she was really lovely. Western Sky Knits was there, Duck Duck Wool. I'm blanking on the others. French Market Fibers. I bought 2 skeins of yarn at this stop. I bought French Market Fibers Warehouse Sock, and the colorway is Midnight on the Moonwalk, and she is apparently based in New Orleans. And I love this tag. I love the reinforced, it's almost like I can't think of what they're used for, just an old-fashioned tag, and this cool stamp. Anyway, without further ado, here's the yarn, and it's a lovely purple, but it's kind of like a lilac, but it's got just a lot of nice tones. Look at all these tones in here of purple. And this is kind of reminiscent of the hazel knits that I bought. But at first I was kind of disappointed about it, but this will probably be socks, and this will be a shawl. So if I can avoid duplicating colors, I like to do that in a single yarn buying venture. So anyway, this is a merino nylon. It feels almost like a BFL nylon. It's very soft, but just the twist, it reminds me of the BFL base of Marigold Jen. But it looks like a really nice yarn, and I'm excited to use it. Then the other yarn I bought was Western Sky Knits. Magnolia Sock. It's an 80-10-10 merino cashmere nylon. The colorway is Nightfall. This might be my favorite thing that I bought, mostly because it is both in my wheelhouse and out of it. I love blue sock yarn, and I don't have a ton of speckled sock yarn, but I just think this is so lovely. I love the bits of white. I love the shocks of kind of a rusty color in here. I love the blips of the bright blue. It's just so pretty. And I don't buy a lot of merino cashmere nylon. I don't want to say I'm a cheapskate. I just default to merino nylon because I think it wears really nicely, And it is often less expensive. So when I buy merino cashmere nylon, like, this is a treat. So, pardon the sirens, there's a fire truck going by, I think. So I really like this. And, like, this little blip, this turquoise really looks good here, set off by the dark blue around it. So I think this will be a pair of socks. If I'm feeling really crazy, maybe it will be a cowl or a hat, but I just think this would be a really, really nice pair of socks. I don't know why I'm whispering, but there you have it. So that brings me to the end of my purchases from Maryland Sheep and Wool weekend. I do have one more thing to show you, though. Here it is. So the week before Maryland Sheep and Wool, I had caught an Etsy update from Amanda, who is Amanda of, aka So Nitpicky, aka Not a Podcast. She is the dyer behind Lammy Toes, and she makes gorgeous speckled sock yarn. And I had not been following her Etsy shop very long, to be honest, but I knew that I think I had only seen one previous update since I started paying attention to her sock yarn. So I knew the updates weren't, if I caught one, I would be so excited, basically, because I'm not good about monitoring Etsy shop updates. So I was scrolling through Twitter, and I saw that she had done a shop update, and so I went over to Etsy, and I bought a skein of Bad Egg so fast that you would have thought, you know, the world was on fire. So she messaged me. I didn't think about putting a message in with the order that she could just bring it in person to Maryland Sheep and Wool, but she very thoughtfully sent me that message, and so she brought it to Maryland Sheep and Wool and canceled the shipping charges. So here it is. It's gorgeous. It's kind of a pink base, but there are so many blips of color. It's just, she is so talented with this, and I think this will be a pair of socks. Like, look at that little bit of lime right there. Oh man, these are gonna be so fun. And the base is just got a really great twist to it. Come on, focus. So I'm really excited about this. And then, as a thank you for playing chauffeur for Maryland Sheep and Wool weekend, she gave me another skein of sock yarn, which was super wonderful of her and generous. And this is Changeling. And both of these, I believe, are her Moon Pie Merino base, which is merino nylon. But it's kind of a gray base, but it's got these lovely blips of turquoise and kind of a lime / scummy green. And there's sky blue in here. Like, it's just, and, you know, when I bought the skein of Bad Egg, I looked very longingly at this skein of Changeling, and I thought, boy, those are my colors. That's really pretty. But I'm going to wait because it's Maryland Sheep and Wool weekend, but I'm going to buy the skein of Bad Egg. And then she gave me a skein of it. I was so tickled. So thank you very, very much, Amanda. That was very generous of you. And I don't know what I'm going to knit from these. Probably socks, but I am super excited. So that really is the end of my stash enhancement. So Saturday after Maryland Sheep and Wool and the Knot House, we were pooped. We all just like wanted to get showers and relax, so we took Amanda back to her hotel, and she came over to our friend's house where we were pet sitting and house sitting, and we were all in our pajamas, and we ordered takeout, and because we were on vacation and we all wanted different things, we each ordered takeout from a different location, which I thought was kind of awesome. So we just sat around and knit, and Kate and Amanda gave me some spinning lessons, and it was just really great. And I feel like we went to bed pretty early that night. We were pretty pooped. So Sunday, we got up and went to Arlington National Cemetery. I had never been there, neither had Amanda. Kate had been there before, so she kind of showed us around. And it was another warm day. In fact, it was warmer than the day before. But we got there quite early, which helped. And Kate took us to, what did we go to first? Well, we happened upon the Supreme Court Justice area of graves because we were walking on this path, and I said, oh, there's, I believe his name is Martin. Martin, it's Ruth Bader Ginsburg's husband's grave because his name is on top, and then there's a big space for her name when that time comes. And I saw Thurgood Marshall from afar. And so we wandered around there for a little bit and looked at the graves to look for names. And then Kate took us to Robert Todd Lincoln's grave, Abraham Lincoln's son. And there were only 2 other people there. And then she took us to President Taft's grave, which no one was there. And we did see George Washington's grave at Mount Vernon, by the way, and we ended up seeing 3 presidents' graves in 48 hours, basically, which was kind of interesting. She took us to JFK's grave and Jackie Onassis's grave, and saw the Eternal Flame. And Bobby and Teddy Kennedy were buried there as well. And then Kate and I decided to go over to the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. She had never been there before in her visits to the cemetery, and I was very keen to check it out. So on our way, we went to the Challenger Memorial, and we saw several astronauts' graves, which was interesting. The Challenger happened when I was quite young, so I don't remember it. But there was also the Columbia Memorial, which I do remember, since that was, only a few years ago. So we went over to the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, and this was by far my favorite part of our visit to Arlington. You always hear about that place, but till you see it, it's, I just didn't really appreciate it fully, I think, for what it was. There were service members buried there from World War I, World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. And I was doing a little reading about this after we visited. The way the World War I, II, and Korea soldiers or service members were chosen, there were several caskets or several remains, and then some sort of senior officer chose which of them was to be taken to Washington to be interred in the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. Vietnam, I don't know exactly how they chose, but it was not a matter of choosing between different caskets. But the service member who was buried in the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier for Vietnam, his remains were exhumed in 1998, and they were identified and I believe reburied. So the tomb for Vietnam is vacant, and I believe will stay that way. I don't know that they will be able to identify the DNA from other service members for World War I, II, and Korea. I think they're probably in there to stay in there. So the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier is guarded, has a guard who marches a path in front of it. The World War I tomb is the one that is above ground. There's a big, probably 8-foot tall tomb, and the others are just, I think, marked on the ground. And the people who have this job are very, it's very precise. They're marching. They march on a mat in front of the tombs, and it's, I believe, 21 steps in each direction. They turn and they face east for 21 seconds, and then they walk back and they turn and face north. They're saluting. I don't know the exact steps, but 21 is chosen because a 21 gun salute is the highest honor you can have in a military funeral. And the people in this honor guard, it's a crazy process that they have to go through to do this. There's a 2-week trial just to be allowed to train for it. And training for it is no guarantee that you'll make the cut. It's very, very difficult to become a guard at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. Months of training, lot of memorization, on top of their other Army duties, I should mention. I was reading up on this on the Arlington National Cemetery website. And you get a temporary badge when you are named an honor guard member at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. But after 9 months, you get a permanent badge, and you can wear it for the rest of your military career. And it is the most rare badge in the Army, the U.S. Army, and it is the second rarest badge in the entire U.S. military after astronaut. So this is a really elite group of people who do this. There's only about 25 to 30 at a time, I believe. So there's a changing of the guard. Come on, computer. Sorry, my computer seems to have frozen. I really hope this isn't... There we go. Okay. There's a changing of the guard. In the summer, it's every half hour. From October to April, it is every hour. And when you are a visitor to the cemetery, you can go watch the changing of the guard. And there is a senior leader who leads the ceremony, and he inspects the weapon and the uniform of the soldier who is coming out to take on the next shift. And it's a very long process, and it's very solemn, and it's just really interesting to watch. And I recorded a video of the weapon inspection, and I also made a second video of something else that we got to see there, which I will explain in a minute. But if I have my ducks in a row, I will attach them to the end of this episode. So if it's something you want to see, great. And if not, you can end the episode when I say my farewell. I have family members who are in the military, and I feel like no matter what you think of war and those decisions that go into it, I think it is a very special thing to choose to serve your country. And just being there and seeing that kind of ceremony really was moving. And it was a Sunday morning, and there were school groups there, which surprised me even on a weekend. But I suppose if you're traveling from out of state, that might be a time you would go. So there were several ceremonies before the changing of the guard, during which these schools, they were middle schools, presented a wreath to be displayed at the tomb of the unknown soldier. So these students brought out the wreath, and it wasn't the guard, but it was the senior, it was a staff sergeant who kind of led this ceremony where they would display the wreath, and there was a bugler, and he played taps. So we got to hear it twice, and it was very wonderful. I can't stress it enough. It was just, you're here, you're walking among all these graves of people that served their country. I mean, we saw graves from the Spanish-American War. I feel like I have goosebumps just thinking about it, and I would love to go back and look around some more and explore and learn more about what the place has to offer. I mean, it's a very solemn place. I don't know, I can't even put it into words, but it felt like a really special thing to get to witness, and I feel very, very fortunate that I was able to go. And I've decided any future trips to DC with people from out of town, like if my parents come for a visit and we go up to DC, I really want to go there again. I really want to see it. Kate and I met a gentleman who had told us he had been there for 2 hours watching the changing of the guard and the tomb of the unknown soldier. And at first I thought, gosh, what is there to see for 2 hours? But it's just a wonderful place to reflect and watch this duty. I mean, this tomb is guarded 24 hours a day, year-round, and has been for decades, which is amazing to me. So it was really special, and it was kind of a wonderful cap on our weekend. After that, we went to lunch at a Mexican restaurant and got frozen yogurt, Kate and Amanda and I, which was really fun. Good way to kind of end our time together. And Sunday afternoon, we went and retrieved our friends and their baby from the airport, and we ate Chipotle that night. And then Monday morning, I drove back home. And there you have it. That was Sheep and Wool. It was a fantastic weekend. I got to do so much knitting and catching up with friends and meeting new friends like Amanda. It was really great. Really, really fun. And it's the kind of thing that you can kind of hold dear until the next time you get to see those friends. So I really enjoyed it. And again, Amanda and Kate and I did record a little podcast together, which Amanda has put at the end of her most recent episode of Not a Podcast. So please check it out. I think that brings me to the end of the episode. It feels silly to talk about my lipstick and then cut to cut to a clip of the changing of the guard, so I won't talk about my lipstick today. That just feels too weird for me. But I hope you have a good week. I hope you get to do a lot of knitting and enjoy springtime wherever you are. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye!